Peter, welcome to the program.
I love it.
You gotta have the clap.
You gotta have the clap to start anything theatrical. You know that. Oh, Lord. That's funny. I love it. That was a great touch.
You gotta have it.
Great touch.
How did you get into theater?
Well, actually, kind of through the back door.
Right.
I've been around theater all my life. I was raised in New York on Long Island, and I used to go to the theater all the time in the city, and I've seen most of the major productions. But on Long Island, we also have a lot of quality theater, like like the Crighton, and one was called the Airport Playhouse, which is very similar to
the Airport Playhouse.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Located at the airport.
Yes.
Okay, MacArthur, Long Island MacArthur Airport. It's located right across the street from it. It used to seat somewhere around 300 people.
Wow.
And
nice.
They had seasonal tickets.
Sure.
I started out purchasing seasonal tickets there for my business, and then when the client sent me somebody, I'd give them a pair of tickets, and then we'd see them there, and we'd have a couple of cocktails or something. And but that way, I got to see theater all the time.
Right.
And, that was just one of about 4 theaters that were within my geographical area out there in Suffolk County. And then, of course, 3-4 times a year, I went into the city, and we had dinner, and you see the shows, and it's kind of been since I was 12 years old. I think I saw my first play on Broadway, or in the Broadway theaters, and I've been hooked ever since. I really love theater.
So, I mean, obviously, you have a lot of quality theater in the New York area.
Oh,
so the first question was, what was that first show you saw?
Oh, goodness. I think the Rockettes at Radio
You saw the Wow.
Rockettes at Radio City Music Hall, I remember. Goodness, I can't remember. I think I was only about 8 years old when my dad took me there.
Oh my goodness, the Radio City Music Hall.
Radio City is a
fabulous place.
It's a fabulous place. My father was a doctor, and he did it all for himself. He paid for it, and he worked his way through college by working at Radio City Music Hall.
Really?
On the midnight swing. He ran the elevator up and down on the midnight swing, and you'd be surprised how many people are actually in Radio City at night.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
Actors and dancers, things like that. And there was a group called the Step Brothers who were tap dancers, and they actually taught them how to tap dance in the elevator at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow!
So just again, theater being part of what I was used to seeing. So
that's amazing place.
Radio City is still one of my all-time favorites.
Oh,
it's a magnificent theater, just an absolutely magnificent theater.
You've taken the tour, right, of Radio City?
Oh, yeah, sure, many times.
I can't remember, the tour is a mile long.
I guess
it's a mile long. I mean,
I guess, I don't remember. Again, I was kind of young when I did that, but my dad wanted me to see where he was, So, but I guess at that time, it probably is about a mile long, It's quite a place, it really is. To see everything, it takes quite a bit. And, you still don't get to see it all on the tour.
Oh, no.
There's a lot of closed areas there.
Well, I'm sure there are. I just got to saw the hydraulics, and the whole story about they used to have a guard there during World War II because those are the same type of hydraulics in an aircraft carrier, right? And so I had to be a guard. I was like, whoa!
There's a lot of things that go on in there that people don't know.
You don't want to know.
You don't want to know about those stories.
So the early shows that you saw, did you see mostly musicals, or were they straight plays too, or comedies, dramas?
Well, back then, most of the theater was something that you could take kids to.
Absolutely, yes.
It's a
kid-friendly, yes.
Yeah, it's changed today a little bit, but back then you could go to almost anything.
Right.
And if it wasn't my dad taking me, it was my grandma.
Right.
And she really didn't quite know how to deal with me as a child. Right. So she brought me to Central Park, and then we'd go to Radio City to see a show or something. It was just a way of entertaining me, and then my mom periodically would bring me in. But mostly I remember my dad was the one who got the theater tickets, and we did that. My sister and I used to go quite a bit with him and do it. My mother worked, so that's why she wasn't there. It might have been the same reason. He might not know what to do with us either, so it was a way of occupying us that he felt was educational.
Well, that's interesting because it sounds like if it was family friendly at that time, there has to have been, I guess, a period where Times Square, that whole area, the theater district went into decline and became less safe for families. When was that?
It started probably in the late 70s.
Really?
And it evolved up until rather recently, really. when Disney started moving in, and they got a new mayor who decided that it was time to allow the policemen to do their job, and all of a sudden now you can go downtown, and it's one of the safest places.
Absolutely,
in the city.
yes.
Although 2 weeks ago they had an incident, but that's a rarity. But
Right.
It is one of the safest places in the city, and it's still that magical land.
Oh, yes.
You can still go in there and you can still get your discount theater tickets, folks. Go up just north of 42nd Street in front of the Olive Garden. The little booth is still there.
it's still
Buy
there,
the present day tickets. It's half price, and you'll see some of the best theater on the planet if you're ever there.
It's just incredible.
Incredible place, it truly is. Restaurants are very inexpensive. It's just a marvelous. If you're a theater type person, it's a wonderland. It
Right.
truly is a wonderland.
So what is so special about New York? Because it's a large city. There are a lot of large cities in the U.S. and around the world. What is special about New York?
Oh gosh, that's quite a city. It's probably the melting pot concept.
Yes.
That's probably it, because every culture that came in here from like the 1850s or 60s on has gone through New York City, and it's evolved into different groupings of people that came. You know, at one time it was the Irish, then you brought in the Italians,
Right.
and we had the Jews, and we had all the different cultural groupings, as it were, Germans and so
Yes.
forth. They all came in because of one thing, language. They all tended to stay together, and
Yes.
they grouped themselves within the city.
Yes.
I guess I should explain, most people don't know New York City. It's actually built on 5 islands.
Wow, yes.
New York City is 5 islands, and Manhattan Island, when I say New York, that's what everybody thinks of,
Right.
Manhattan Island. That's the primary area.
Right.
But within Manhattan Island are these communities of different groupings, cultural groupings. And that flavor, you can go down south of Soho, which means south of Houston, which is one of the major arteries that cuts the city in half. If you go there, there's the Italians, and then on the other side, if you go north on the riverside down by First Avenue, you have the German community, and there's all sorts of restaurants and cultural setups and their ethnic backgrounds, and it's but they all blend right around that 42nd Street. 36th to 46th Avenue, right in their street, and between 2nd and 4th Avenue. All the theater district is just a hub of people enjoying acting, enjoying true artistry.
Yes.
And it's just really something that takes your breath away if you've ever been around it. But if I were asked, as you asked me, I would have to say it's probably that melting pot of all these different peoples coming together with a common theme. They want to do better. They want to share what they
Yes.
have, and so that's what I think New York really means to a lot of people, anyway.
You see, obviously, you've seen a lot of theater in New York. You've obviously had some good times with that. Is there anything that theater taught you or inspired you to do?
Goodness, that's. I have done very little acting myself. I have done a little bit, but very little bit. I'm more comfortable behind the scenes. I'm in front. I've done a lot of television. I was in front of television through my occupation almost on a daily basis, and I've done acting, but I'm really not an accomplished actor. I'm not comfortable in that area. My wife has become extraordinarily involved, and she's jumped in with both feet, and that's terrific, because it's a way with the community theaters that we can give back something to our community. She absolutely loves what she's doing. I kind of work backstage sets, building them up, taking them down, painting, doing everything. Right presently, I've been working with lighting, which I'm having a lot of fun with. But we interact with a group of people that like the same things that we do. They're just warm, friendly people. It's become almost like a family type of atmosphere, and we really, really enjoy that.
And we just found that with some of the other kids. That, theater, yeah, you want to put on a good show, absolutely, but it's really about the extended family,
It is really a family. People would be shocked as to how close you become with these.
You spend a lot of time here. You might as well be friends.
You spend a great deal of time down here. I mean, you virtually live here.
You want to have a good time. Hopefully, you feel like you're doing some good and and impacting people's lives. But
you see the people come in, the patrons that come into this magnificent theater, and if you haven't come down, folks, come to the theater.
Yeah.
But this magnificent theater that we work with, and you see them come in here, and some are unhappy, some are, happy, whatever. But at the end of any show, I've yet to see people who don't have a smile on their face and feel like they've gotten something from being here.
Yeah.
And the themes from comedy to the serious production that we're doing right now, the Helen Keller story, they're all going to give lessons in life. And it's just wonderful to be a part of it and to actually feel that you've accomplished a task that you set out to do.
It's amazing. We're going to talk more about volunteerism, because that's been a big issue, not just with us, but with all nonprofits, throughout the U.S. We'll talk about that. But in real life, what did you do? Or many careers, probably. But some of the first career.
I was a police officer in New York. I was a sergeant on a rather large police department, and I was involved with homicide. And I did a lot of the television interviewing. And by trade, I'm a forensic hypnotherapist. So I worked with witnesses to pretty horrific crimes.
Right.
And I dealt with that for a long time. But that's a life that's over with, and I just wish it would go away from the memories. But
well, it's so interesting. You probably have some very, strong memories. And you probably have seen it too with a lot of our soldiers and volunteers that come back, post-traumatic stress syndrome. And
PTS is a reality.
And I guess it's always been around. It's not just a recent reality. Is that
no, I mean, they used to call it combat fatigue and
whatever,
World War I, and they, during the Civil War, they had other names for it.
Right.
Actually, in the Civil War era, they just basically called it cowardness, and they didn't understand what was happening. And even World War I, they truly didn't have a good grasp of it. And but yeah, PTS is a reality. I worked with the TWA Flight 800 that crashed, and the people that were involved with that, that was such a huge incident, as was the towers.
Yes.
And those, that happening. The trauma that takes place is something that never really goes away.
Yeah. And
it affects how people live, and if they can't deal with the situation properly, it definitely has a negative impact on people. But volunteerism in like the theater, this is an outward expression of who a person really is, and it allows him to feel like he becomes a part of a family and he's accomplishing a task, or he or she, I'm saying he, but it obviously could be female also. And they do accomplish a great deal. I mean, I am still fascinated, since I've been involved with this, to see in 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the production, we can take someone who has no knowledge of what's taking place, and they memorize the script, and then they bring it to life, and then they finalize it, and you sit there at the end of 6 weeks when we're about to open, you go, how did that happen?
It's an incredible process.
How did that happen? And it wasn't 5 days before. We're talking saying, this ain't going to happen. It's
sometimes it happens the night before. We've seen it, the tech week.
It's tech week.
What's going to happen?
I don't know whether people understand what tech week is, but it's a nightmare for us.
That's why we call it L week.
Yeah, it's a nightmare week. But all of a sudden it seems magic. All the pieces come and they fit together, and it becomes a tight bond. And I think that's where the relationships and the friendships come. I've made some very close friends here that I feel close with, and it's just a great place to be. And I've learned so much. It's you never stop. If you stop learning, it just because age doesn't mean anything.
No.
I try to stay young. I try to stay active, and although climbing the stairs, getting up there,
it's a good exercise. It gets a little tired.
That mile walk through the theater, try to go straight up sometimes. That's
it is something. Well, let's talk about volunteers just in general, not just theater, but in all nonprofits. I mean, nonprofits are the lifeblood of America.
Oh, absolutely.
That's incredible. And depending on where I see numbers, volunteerism down or up, I don't know. This is.
Oh boy, that's a tough one.
But I guess, how do we attract quality volunteers? Not just theater, but all nonprofits. How do we,
That's a really hard question. really it has to be something that tugs at a person's heartstrings, or something that they have kind of an interest in.
Yes.
It's almost like whatever church or belief system you have, that's an institution that runs by volunteers.
Absolutely.
And there's like one focal central point, like the pastor or rabbi who would, say, well, I need some assistance with this or that, and try to draw people in to show what skills they have. In theater, the good example I can give you is my wife. Here's a woman of 60 years of age. Hasn't acted since she was in fourth grade, fourth or fifth grade, in a small country school. I mean, she comes from a very rural Texas community, and so I don't know how many children were in her school, but I don't think it was more than 5 or 6. That's a lie, but exaggerate a little bit. It's small. But then all of a sudden at 60, she turns to me one day and said, I'm going to go down and try out for a part in a play. And I sat there and said, are you nuts? She said, no, I did that as a kid. I've always wanted to do it, and I want to do something like that. So she went out and she found something that fits her. I guess that's what has to happen. If it was somewhere else that you needed, like at the hospitals,
right,
you can start volunteering as like a candy striper.
Yes.
If you're really interested in medicines and things, you can volunteer and move patients,
yes,
that kind of stuff with training, of course.
Yes.
But there's a need for just about any occupation for assistance.
Yeah.
I know in the job that my wife and I had, we ran a couple of insurance agencies. And we contacted the high school, and they had a program where children, these are not really children, they're 17, 18-year-olds now, but...
Kids to us, yeah.
Right, they volunteer to go to an office atmosphere to learn how business is conducted. And we had one of those youngsters come to us, and she was what they called the jacket winner. She had received the school jacket for academics, and she was an extraordinarily bright young woman. And really organized. She wanted to go into business. And she came and she saw how the office ran. She learned some of the basics of business, how you interact with people.
Sure.
I'm sure I have not been able to follow up because she moved almost after about a 4-month period of time. She left us, and her mom moved her out of the community. It was an unfortunate circumstance of the family falling apart. But I'm sure that she took some knowledge and is applying that. So she reached out for something she enjoyed.
Right.
And for her case, it just so happened to lucked out. She got a grade out of it also, which was a very nice circumstance. But I guess for volunteerism, there has to be a bug or a grain of something in you that wants you to do that. And I don't think everybody is going to be a volunteer. I don't think it's not something for everybody. Although I have to say, I think everybody's got a skill of some kind that can be used.
Right.
We have all different types of people here in the theater that, like me, I prefer behind the scenes, but there are some that love to jump in front and be out there under the spotlights. I've done it. It's just not my thing. I can do it again if need be, but I find my satisfaction in other areas.
Absolutely.
So that's. But as far as anything else attracting him, I couldn't really tell you any secrets. I don't think there's a true secret to that. I think there has to be a germ of something in a person to bring them into that area.
But maybe we can plant the seed, or parents have to plant the seed in their kids to make them to want to be less selfish. Because it's very it's a selfless thing. You're giving of your time, your money, your talents,
Planting the seed. You're wearing the shirt from the last production.
That's right.
Cinderella. Talk about getting youngsters involved.
Yeah.
We had on a Sunday, the 2 Sundays we had on matinees, this place was wall-to-wall little girls.
Yes.
Dressed up like Cinderella because we had a tea for them down the street.
Yes.
We had a horse and carriage here. The little things the theater did. This place was wall-to-wall youngsters, and I can guarantee you, out of that audience of let's say, 200 kids each time at least? Easily 200 kids each. There's going to be 40 or 50 kids who are going to want to get involved in theater.
They're going to remember
it impacted them. That's what I remember about theater and what I liked so much when I was a youngster. The beauty of it, you can use your imagination.
Yes.
And a story that everybody knows is a story becomes alive.
Yes.
And afterwards, we had the prince and everybody here.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Cinderella,
I mean,
there,
it was just such a wonderland for youngsters. But out of those 400 youngsters that were here over those two-day matinees, those 2 Sundays, I will venture a guess that 50 youngsters out of there are going to remember this. And it's going to affect them in some manner, shape, or form. And maybe they'll volunteer later on to get involved in community theater after they've got the time. And that is one of the drawbacks why we have problems with volunteers, because there is so much time involved.
Yes.
This is not something that you can do just, one time and get away.
I'll drop in. Hey, I got an hour between 4 to 5. Can I come help?
Yeah, exactly. There's always something for the hour, but we really need a little bit more. I mean, as an actor, you're dedicating 6 to 8 weeks of your life, 10 weeks of your life, and literally it's 24 hours a day. You've got to memorize script. You've got to figure out where you're going to stand with everything that you're saying.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie? Where's my blocking?
Yeah,
that one. What's not working?
What do you mean I'm turning my back to the audience?
What do you mean I got to move this furniture?
It's a never-ending process. I'm an actor. What do you mean I got to carry a couch? Egos play a little role in this too. But.
Yeah. No, so, in fact, we were just talking to, I think it was Isabella, who just got interviewed, and asked her, we always ask the question, if heaven exists, and she wanted God to let her know that she made a difference in her life. And the question I just asked you was interesting. We try to make a difference, but sometimes it's not always the big things that make a difference. It's sometimes the very smallest things. Like you said, which we think it's, hey, you just had a good time and experience, but somehow that can make an impression on someone that lasts their entire life.
I really think that I'll stay with the Cinderella routine. Yeah. I think those youngsters, those little girls, all want to be a princess. I mean, they all do. And I really think that impacted on them because we took the time as a group, as an organization. I truly physically didn't do it, but they had that horse buggy and being able to meet the princess and take pictures with her after just seeing that lovely production and being dressed like her and getting the little slippers that we sold and all of the wands and all of those things. Those kids are going to remember that all their lives.
Yes.
Just as I remember Radio City and all those things, the chorus line, it's just the Rockettes were wonderful, and I probably saw them 15 times, and I'll never forget that, and it was just a wonderful thing. And, it'll be that way for these youngsters the rest of their lives too. But we got to get them young, I think.
I agree. We have to get them young before they start getting hooked on these electronics.
Oh yeah, because that is so.
It's so pervasive and
pervasive. It's so latching onto them.
There's a stat, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard this. I don't know. It was on NPR. They said they took a survey, and 84% of people said they would rather have their smartphone than have sex.
No, I doesn't matter if that's true.
I heard that, and whether it's true or not, but just the fact that it's a large number at all is pretty incredible.
That's mind blowing.
But it's how addictive we are. Because we just walk down the street, or whatever. What's everybody doing?
Yeah,
they're looking at their phone.
The Facebook thing. That's another thing that just blows my mind here. Mm-hmm. People are telling their entire lives to complete and total strangers.
But we've talked about this before. Before we had 1984. Remember the book? We were worried about the invasion of privacy.
Yeah, Big Brother.
We got to worry about. We're giving it away. We're giving it away voluntarily, right?
It's true.
Here's a picture of me on Facebook.
Yeah, and I live at this community. This is my house number, and
I just saw this show. I just ate at this restaurant.
We're a very odd conglomerate. We really are. We're kind of a nation of people who are very open and very caring and giving. And a lot of other societies and cultures look at us like we're crazy.
That's right.
And they might be right. I don't know. That's the scary one. They could be right.
They could be right, yeah.
Honestly, I have a hard time with a lot of that kind of stuff. I love my electronics. I mean,
don't get me wrong. I love it too.
I live on my laptop, and I do that, but I don't do Facebook. My kids tried to get me involved, and my niece and my cousins, and I did it for about a week, and I said, I'm starting to live on this thing. I can't do this. I don't have the time. I got to be down at the theater, That slave driver over there, that Steve, he makes me do it. I'm not surprised at the number you gave me, but that shocked me a little bit. Yeah.
Shocked that people are so connected. It's almost an integral part of their lives that they can't be without.
Oh, without having it now, there are so many people who could not live.
Right.
And that, it started out as a joke. How did we ever live without the internet before?
That's right.
How did we ever live without a cell phone?
Right. And now...
I remember my mother calling real loud, and I had better hear it.
That's right. If you didn't hear it, you were in trouble.
But you were given a time, and if it's just a different time and a different culture, it's...
Listen, I think all thinking of technology is hopefully, for the most part, neutral. How you use it, for good or bad, is important.
The technology of the theater has changed over the years.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, now look at the spotlights we have and our capabilities of bringing color and life into there.
Yes.
The sound systems.
Yeah.
My goodness, I mean, you can have somebody whisper on stage with a microphone and 450, 500 people can hear every whisper and every sound.
There is a lot of technology, but it's still a people business, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's
still a person
Absolutely.
business. And being able to become your character.
Yeah.
That's a true skill. It takes practice to get there. Almost everybody's got that capability. People don't believe that, but they do. But it's practice. And when you practice, all of a sudden you can learn to become a different character and step out of who you really are into this character and be them, and then become who you are again when you leave at night. It's a marvel. But people in Hollywood, they do it all the time. People in theater do it all the time. People in real life do it all the time.
That's right. Well, I was going to say, because after you were a policeman, did you get into insurance after or during? When did you get into insurance?
Well, I'm one of these people that has to have their fingers in a lot of pies.
Simultaneously.
Yeah, simultaneously. I was a policeman. I'm a forensic hypnotherapist, so I had a hypnosis practice. I owned a travel agency.
Yeah, a travel agency, yes.
I did that for a lot of years. When I retired from that, we moved to Arizona. I played a lot of golf for a while.
Right.
And then I started saying, I'm going out of my mind. There's only so much golf you can do.
Right.
I was still rather young. I was in my early 50s.
Right.
And then my wife kept coming back and forth to Texas for the youngsters, the grandchildren. So we came here, and we were both a little on the board side. And I had always kind of wanted to do business on the outside. I always had my fingers dabbling.
Sure.
So we opened a farmer's insurance agency. And then we accrued a couple of others where people had gone out of business. We took their practices over. And we ended up with like 3 locations. And then I got licensed as a stockbroker.
Right.
And with a Series 6 and 63. And
Right.
Did that simultaneously with the other. And then I opened another travel business selling vacations kind of simultaneously with the others.
Right.
And it just kept us busy. Then we had kind of a personal tragedy. We were in 2 head-on car wrecks here in Texas. Drove like a nut as a cop, never had a problem. Come to Texas, and people try to kill me. So we had some serious injuries from that. My wife ended up with a broken neck and a broken hip and broken leg and stuff. So that kind of took the wind out of our sails, and we just kind of said, well, let's just let this all go and calmed down a little bit.
Right.
We healed and got back on our feet and stuff. And then that's kind of when she popped that thing and surprised me and said, yeah, I'm going to the theater. She is probably the most active person I know. She can't sit still.
Yeah.
She's talking about a Class A personality. So she found her love here, though. She really has. And I'm happy for her. And I don't mind hanging around doing my thing because I'm getting a lot out of it. So. That's kind of the story of where it all came from.
How'd you get there? Well, you've had several lifetimes, it sounds like. How has travel changed over time?
Travel over time?
Yeah, because especially from the travel agency point of view.
Yeah. Well, the whole industry with financing has totally changed. A travel agent used to be able to make a pretty good living. We did a commission on airline tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that got cut way back. The industry started cutting way back. Then they took it away entirely. You don't get anything for travel, for selling tickets anymore. It used to be a free business. You never had to pay for a travel agency. Now there's always a fee involved. So the agent can make some kind of a living out of it and kind of count on something.
Right.
Cruise lines, they still can make a pretty good living out of dealing with cruising. But the industry, there's a lot more people moving a lot faster than they ever did before. People use aircraft, and I think it's grown just about every year.
Right.
I started the travel agency about 20 years ago, and yeah, people were using jets and moving around, but business, especially more and more, has become a lot more mobile. They travel, you know. Well, I don't have a clientele in Conroe now. I have a clientele in California.
Right.
And I've got to interact with them, so I can do conference phones for a while, but really I need to touch flesh to flesh and shake the guy's hand, and, you know.
Still got to touch base, and there's still the personal touch, right?
It's got to be, and you've got to move around and travel. Plus the fact, of course, I love to travel. I enjoy it. Cruising has changed radically. When I first was on cruise ships years and years ago, they were smaller, and it was much more intimate, much more formal. You always wore a jacket and tie.
Oh, absolutely. Travel used to be much more formal, right? We dressed up to travel.
As a child, I used to get dressed up and take a trip to see Grandma. You wore a suit.
You dressed up.
You wore a suit and a tie, and you all got dressed to get in the car to drive to Grandma's house.
Right.
That was, everybody traveled more or less first class. You dressed like your Sunday best.
That's right.
And that was getting on board an aircraft was the same thing too. No matter what class you were in, first class or in the cattle car, it doesn't make any difference. You were dressed. Today,
and you were treated pretty well, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a formalism.
There was a formalism to it. There was a lot more benefits, like everybody taking a flight over a certain period of time was given a meal.
Absolutely.
Then they even made it more personal. Like I come from a very Jewish community, so they had kosher foods, and they ordered kosher foods, and the kosher meal was there for them.
Yes.
I mean, there was just a lot of this service to take care of the client. The customer was king.
Right. But also, there's a more regulated environment. It was a regulated environment. Prices were set. There were no this discount business.
Yeah, it became a lot more cutthroat when they changed the layout of the industry.
Yeah.
And now, like in cruising was kind of like the wealthy person's.
That's right. You went on a cruise? Oh my goodness, that was a big deal.
You must be
rich, right?
Yeah. Probably well off then to be able to do that. And I hate to say it, but that was actually pretty true. You had to have some money to do that one form of relaxation. But now you've got companies. Well, look at Carnival.
That's right.
The largest cruise line in the planet.
Right.
Carnival Cruises, and they own many other different cruise lines under different names, one of which just had a problem in Italy.
Right.
Okay, that was one of theirs. But they are the largest cruise ship. You can take a 4-day, 3-night cruise for $179 a person today. And it doesn't matter, folks. You go to dinner, the guy who paid $5,000 for that same trip is going to eat the same food you are.
And that's all expenses, right?
And that's all expenses included.
Incredible.
The only thing that's not your bar tab. That's extra. But it usually includes soda. They have free Carvel ice cream type of dispensers all over. It's totally incredible.
Yes.
And there's swimming pools, sometimes 5 and 6 of them.
Right.
Youngsters, they're on such big ships now, the youngsters get little pocket walkie-talkies. And you never see your kid, you don't see your child for the whole day. You kiss them goodbye at 7 in the morning, they go to their breakfast. They're taken off, and they have an area of the ship that's just for these little guys that they have an absolute ball.
Right.
And you can talk to them on the walkie-talkie and, pardon me, meet them for family meals, and this for $179 a person. And if you bring a couple of kids, the second child is discounted even deeper. And, I mean, if you have to take a trip today and you want to have a family vacation, trust me, check out cruising, because it probably is going to cost you a lot less.
That's incredible.
It truly is incredible today. We just took a cruise in December and met a very nice family with 3 youngsters. From 17, I think 13, and down to like this little princess was about 8.
Right.
She cruised for free.
She cruised for free?
Yeah, because they had 2 adults and 2 teenagers, one of whom was over 16, so they considered him an adult.
Right.
So they put the first one, the younger one, first to count him as the third, so he got a discounted rate. But therefore, the older brother, who is now the 4th one, he got an even more discounted rate. It came out by far that this was the cheaper vacation for them.
That's incredible.
It is totally incredible. And unfortunately, circumstances today, there's a lot more security on cruise ships. A lot more of the guys with the badge are walking around
Really?
now, and yeah, of course, you don't see them. It's like walking in the Diamond District in New York. Every third person is an undercover policeman, but nobody knows that,
Right.
you know, except they look like undercover policemen. But
Right.
you know, on board cruise ships, on airplanes, we have sky marshals. You know,
Yeah.
our social structure today is
Well,
it
it's
has
changed.
to happen. It's changed.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about security in general. I mean, you were a former police officer, but let's talk about security in general. The change in security changed long before 9/11.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
really, it did change.
The
long before
process
9/11. Yeah.
changed a lot earlier than that.
Yes.
But that was the focal point. 9/11
Absolutely.
became the absolute focal point. But yes, there were many changes taking place, and I happen to be one of those odd policemen. I don't think you need any more restraint on firearms. I really think our society has some social breakdowns that have taken place, and
Yes.
the family is,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of really altered itself in the last 50 years. We've
Yeah.
gone from a hierarchy of the husband running the household in a family type unit to a wide open relationships, and nobody cares and nobody pays attention, and you know, the school has usurped the parents' place, or you know, tries to, or
And then there's some cases they don't have any power either.
and they don't have
right?
any power either. It totally alters and changes around too.
And the kids know it. Yeah, you can't touch me.
Yeah, you can't touch me.
discipline me. You can't do anything to me.
You do anything to me now, it's
They sue you.
You know, they'll sue you and they'll have you arrested.
Yeah.
And they will.
Yeah, they will.
And it will happen. It's a totally different society today. This is very, very different than what I ever imagined it would turn out to be. I'm sure people in my parents' age group and your parents' age group.
Yeah,
well, your parents are still alive.
They're still alive. Yeah. But
They've seen a lot of changes too.
Yeah.
And now your parents would be a great choice for you because they're from another country.
Yeah.
And you know, another social structure, and then they come here, and now they see what's happening here, and
The changes.
that have taken place. They would be somebody to interview. They could.
Well, let's talk about what are we doing right about security in this country,
You'd be
if anything.
no. We're you know, as far on a localized level, or are we talking on a
Anywhere, yeah. So
on a
locally,
large
globally,
scale?
nationally,
You're leading into what I used to do. Yeah, I also train anti-terrorism. That's where he's coming with this, I think.
Yes.
And we've had a lot happen since 9/11. There haven't been too many major incidences in the United States since
Thank goodness.
9/11.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness, and thank goodness, and thank Homeland Security. You know, thank you FBI, and thank you CIA, and
I'm sure there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes we don't know
thank you
about.
ICE,
Yes.
and thank you all these other people, and
Yes.
yeah, there's an awful lot of good things going on.
Right.
Are we having circumstances and incidences? Absolutely, it happens. You've got a population of how many millions now?
Well, we're at least 300 million
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the U.S.,
there's-
6-7 billion in the world.
And it's not just us anymore, folks.
right.
Europe is in the same boat. Great Britain, France, they're all having their security problems, if you want to term it that.
Yeah.
It's a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just us. Asia's having it.
Yes.
It's anytime a society is threatened, it's got to respond.
Yes.
And it's happening. There's a lot of good things taking place. Anywhere along the line, when you're doing something like that, the ball is going to get dropped. Something happens. Well, the military did this, or the CIA did that. New York PD, unfortunately, was looking at one religious group, and you know, these things are part of it. It's going to come out. It's going to happen. Is it right? No. During World War II, we took a population and we threw them in jail, basically, and they hadn't done a thing wrong. That was probably the biggest travesty that we did.
They went some of our best fighters from the Japanese-American community, right?
As a matter of fact, they were the highest awarded organization
right.
of Japanese Americans. They won more medals than anybody else.
Fierce fighters.
Look at Lincoln.
Yeah.
Look what Abraham Lincoln did. He's one of our, if not the favorite president in history. He's one of the favorite right there. Right now with George Washington, I guess, right? But think about what he did. He violated the Constitution about 18 different ways. He got rid of habeas corpus on his own. And we're, you know, So there's always something that can be pointed out and,
Sure.
and said about anything. But overall, I think we're doing some good. I also have opinions on other things. But, you know, the rifle thing and the weapons that we had with Mexico, that tragedy that took place.
Were they trading weapons for hostages or something?
Well,
or,
they were selling weapons and trying to track them as they went
Right.
down through the gangs and the mobs of Mexico, and ended up losing control of thousands of weapons. And okay, it was a mistake. It happened, and unfortunately, a lot of people got hurt.
Right.
You know, but in the overall picture, well, I have to tell you that isn't a drop in the bucket. But it's something that people focus on, especially in politics. And politics has definitely changed over the years too.
Yeah, that is interesting. Just as well, I mean, even news. I don't know how much really news has changed either. But we talk about, you know, if all you get about the sense of a society is through your news organizations, it's a very skewed view.
Oh, a
of
very
life,
skewed
right?
view of life.
That's a blood and guts kind of thing. And you know, you work TV, right?
Of all the individuals I worked with when I was doing the television stuff, they were probably the most liberal group of individuals that I have ever come to. And here I am, one of the most conservative groupings. Law enforcement is very conservative. Yes, sir. No, sir. You know, this is a paramilitaristic organization, folks. You know, there's uniforms, there's weaponry, there's hierarchy of command, and then you have these other people that don't like that. They don't like that you can tell people what to do, and there's got to be a balance. And if you were just looking at your newspaper and reading your newspaper, there would be a definitely skewed opinion of things. And it's just each group has their own way of looking at things and doing things. The news media, overall, though, when it comes down to nitty-gritty, they try to gather the data and put it out there. Sometimes they do it with their opinion, but if you can look at that and realize that that's happening, you're still getting information.
Yes.
And it gives us an idea of what's taking place anyway. Maybe skew it, as we said, but at least they're digging into it. But it's all that. I mean, there was years ago with like Eleanor Roosevelt, there was a lot of things that they could have written about that was never said or written about.
That's right.
Because culturally, you didn't do that. You didn't embarrass the President of the United States.
Right.
You didn't say things about the President. Today, he's fair game. There's a target on his forehead.
Even Kennedy, right? I mean, think of behind the scenes in the Kennedy. Even, you know, is that recent? There things happened? No, they didn't make it out.
No,
people knew it, but
people, you kept your quiet.
Right.
You didn't do these things. It's changing. It's just a changing area, but that is still the ultra liberal group. That and educators are very on the liberal sides, and then there's other areas of conservatism, not just law enforcement. There's other conservative areas and groups and stuff, and it seems to almost separate the two groupings. That's what I'm not happy with. There was a blending of conservatives and liberals all through our history, because there was something that we wanted.
Well, we still have a common goal. I mean, we can disagree about a lot of things.
But
the famous story I think about is Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan. Man, you couldn't get more polarized.
You couldn't get more polarized.
They still have a drink with each other, though.
Oh, they'll sit down. Yeah, I talk like this, too.
Yeah.
Yes, they'd sit down and have a drink, yeah.
But it's more difficult now. I don't think we have civil conversations. It's very difficult to have a civil conversation.
Right now with the candidates we have, I can't imagine them sitting down and cracking open a cold beer in the backyard and talking.
Which is a shame.
That is it.
Because we're all Americans. We want the same thing.
Basically, they both have the same idea. They do want to do good. And,
that's right. Have different ideas of how to approach it.
Very different ideas of how to approach things, but the concept is still there. But there's just not that comfortable factor, comfortability with it. But we've seen a lot of changes take place. Yeah. And again, getting back to theater can impact that.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes it's a reflection of life. Sometimes it's a way to lead people to think differently.
When I said it used to be theater, used to be family friendly.
Yes.
There is a lot of theater today. I would not bring my grandchildren to.
Well, you have to be careful.
You have to be selective. You have to be careful, not just in the theme or the concept they're putting out, but some people get extraordinarily upset with language, things
Yes.
like that. And I mean, simple words that I can't, say here.
Right.
But and break it down geographically.
That's
I'm in
right.
the South.
That's right.
Okay, here I'm in the heart of the South.
Which thinks very differently.
Very,
in New
very
York,
radically
right?
differently from where I was in New York. The
Absolutely.
newspapers used to use something that stops water. That word
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
Okay, that was. I mean, that's in the newspapers. It was on the news, on
Yeah.
TV, and that was a commonplace word. That and where you don't want to go to if you
Yes.
pass over.
Right.
That's a commonplace word. Down here, those are curse words,
Yeah.
and you don't say them in mixed groups, and you don't say
Yeah.
them even amongst men.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
something. Yeah.
totally blown away when I came into the Southern culture, when I met my wife and married and came down. This is a whole new world.
It's different. Yeah.
Communication is a very different world down here.
Yeah.
Here we are in the same country,
That's right.
But yes, the theater still can have an impact.
Yes.
Little girls still want to be princesses.
Yes.
I'm looking at some of the posters around here. Music Man was one of the productions we did. I actually acted.
And you were there. You get.
I was in there, and the theater, people still can get an awful lot from that down home country.
Yes.
And it means something. There's still that community concept. We live in a great little city here. This Conroe is growing leaps and bounds, but we have 2 theaters. We have a Philharmonic.
Yes.
We have so much going on. We're refurbishing our downtown area and making it into what is going to be a nice cultural
Class Acts
center.
expanding their
Yeah.
offerings. I mean,
All over.
there's a new dance studio just opened in the Woodlands.
Yeah,
I mean that's going to support us a theater as well. It's just amazing.
I was told recently it's the 3rd largest planned community in the United States.
Yeah, it made it in the top 20 for place livability.
Livability is
Yeah, it's amazing.
so many things going on in our area here. But we have 2 theaters, 2 quality theaters, very good quality. You move up the road to Huntsville, they have a quality theater. There is still room for theater in this country. You don't
It's
not
amazing.
just movies.
Yeah.
There's
We talk about
live
how do we
theater.
get attracting people here. Like I said, starting young, it certainly helps. You gotta
That
start
certainly
young.
helps. Keeping the prices reasonable because
Yes.
the actors are volunteer.
Yes.
The stage crews, people don't realize there isn't a paid person in this place.
No.
Everything that's done in here is done by a volunteer. From the cleaning to building sets, we have people who slave away for 5 weeks building these sets. And when the production's done, what you folks don't know is we get at it with a hammer and a
2 to 4 hours, it's gone.
and we tear it apart. All those staircases, all those building fronts,
Gone.
everything is torn apart, thrown in a trash can. Very little of it is salvaged. We have to tear it down because the stage has to be used
Yep.
for another production.
Right.
And it just is an ongoing process of building up and tearing down. That's a group of people nobody ever sees.
No, it isn't. But
And
they're
they
absolutely
get-
essential. Absolutely essential.
Without them, they're as important, if not more important, than the actors. Staging of anything is a critically important setup. We had a young fellow, still have a young fellow who works with us on sound.
Yep.
He's a genius with it. I mean, he doesn't even have to think about it. But we just recently found out when he couldn't be here how difficult it is to do that job. Like I said, I was doing lights. I'm still a novice at this, but I'm learning, and that's critically important. You have a show production going on, and there's no lighting, which
You can't see what you're doing. Guess what?
yeah, and there's a big drop off the edge of that stage, folks. And if you start flashing bulbs and stuff, your camera's off, and they get blinded with that. They sometimes can miss that. We've had people fall down the stairs. One of our actresses
I know.
tripped and went down a flight of stairs and
There.
bruised herself up pretty badly. And,
Yeah.
we've had lots of things take place, but there are a lot of people backstage that you don't see that make this thing work. Your director,
Oh, yeah. Hey, because I work lights as well. When you're in the light booth, I bet you see a lot of phones and iPads on that aren't supposed to be on.
Yeah.
That's got to be as like,
it's frustrating. It truly is. They make an announcement every night asking you to turn your phones off. turn your iPads off.
Lights up like a Christmas
Yeah,
tree.
don't take pictures, please. And, you know, in the theater, it's on for 15 minutes, and all of a sudden there's lights lit up all over downstairs with these iPhones. And we had one fellow with the laptop. He had a whole tablet, it was videotaped. The whole thing on a tablet. And I mean, talk about a violation. Wow.
So please, sir, don't do it.
Yeah, send him a bill for the usage of the script. But yeah, it's being up. Lighting is up in the highest corner of the theater in the back, so that we can look over everybody's head and see what's going on. And it's a complex thing. We have a genius who helps us set that up too, but it has to be altered periodically. And thank goodness Steve's got a degree in that kind of stuff, and
yeah, right.
Can help put,
we
put that together.
Like I said, you know what? I think you're right. You know, no matter where you are in life, when you stop learning, you might as well be dead.
Yeah.
Because life isn't interesting anymore. You know?
No, it's not.
There's always something, and there is always something
There's
different
always
to
something.
learn.
Yeah, I'm
people
trying to learn
meet.
Spanish right now and talk about something. Give me a break. I mean, talk about learning something complicated and try to get another language when you're 66 and working in this place.
But back to learning. You know, like I said, you got to keep learning no matter where you are in life.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And meeting people, because there's so many interesting people to meet, places to go. Like I said, you love travel.
Yeah.
You know, I love travel.
I just left church coming here, as a matter of fact, and we had an 84-year-old woman there who's starting out and learning, you know, how to become a prayer chaplain and all things.
Yes.
And just if you stop, and yet that woman is articulate. She's got all of her senses.
Right.
She's active. She's up and about. Doesn't even walk with a cane because she, you know, she just keeps herself busy and doing something. She's not at the church. She's down at the hospital volunteering.
Sure.
If she's not at the hospital, she's at the children's shelter doing something there. If you stop, you lose. What's the saying? You don't use it, you lose it.
That's right. Use it, use it or lose it, and that's true.
It's the absolute truth. It really is, and I'm happy to see that there are still people who like to do that. I was going to bring her down here to volunteer and work at a.
We could probably do that too. She probably would enjoy that.
Probably can serve the drinks during the break,
Absolutely.
and, the studio break or something. And we always need volunteers for that. Folks.
Yeah, we always need volunteers. Yeah, like I said, all volunteer organizations. Yeah, all nonprofits. We live and die by volunteers. Definitely volunteers.
That's the name of the game. We have to have the people come out here and help. And if you come and you enjoy the theater and stuff, well, maybe you'd enjoy it just as much helping other people get seated as an usher, or you know, and the benefits you get out of it. Well, you get to see that other people are gaining from this, and perhaps even seeing a show for free because we don't charge the ushers.
That's right.
Or something to see the productions. There's always a little side benefit aside from the cultural thing that you're going to get from it. So that it volunteers without them, we're just non-functional.
It's incredible. Well, we definitely got to have you come back again, but I got to ask this question we ask everyone: if heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
Wow. Boy, that's a tough one. Good grief. If heaven exists, oh man, that's a tough one.
Is he going to say, "Where's your badge"?
No, I don't think he's going to say that. No, they were. That was not always a good lesson.
So badges, we don't need no stinking badges.
Yeah.
No stinking badges.
No, I guess like what you had said something earlier, kind of intimating that question. I didn't pick up on it. You kind of got me good there. But I just would like people to say that, you know, he did well. He was there for people and he helped. I guess that's really what I'd want someone to say.
Yes.
I guess we all want to say, well, you know, Steve, he was a good guy, or Pete, he was a good guy, or you know, Mary, she's what a lady she was.
Right.
And I think we all kind of crave that, I guess. And
I think we all need validation that we made a difference,
Yeah,
and a positive difference.
Positive
we made a
impact.
positive difference in someone's life, and I think, you know, most people have said that too. But like I said, we told some of the kids, sometimes you find out later on in life that the difference you made was the smallest thing, and you really have to be careful because the smallest thing that you do might have the largest impact on someone.
One of the things I remember is something that happened with my father when I was young. He had no memory of it, nothing at all. But I could tell you today instantly what it was. It wasn't a very good thing, so I won't.
Right.
You know, but I probably was 5 or 7 years old. The exact age I don't recall, but I can tell you in detail what took place.
Wow.
And those pictures are not pleasant, and they will stay.
They stay with you. Yeah.
They stay with you, and there are some pleasant things that stay with you too,
Yes.
like Radio Cities that
Yes.
stays with me. And I took my wife into Central Park, and I showed her the Central Pond area,
Right.
and, and told her the stories of how my grandma used to take me here and there
Yes.
and stuff. Those are vivid too.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes it's the real small things. What's that? Grandma takes a grandson to the park.
Right.
But that mattered.
It matters.
That
And
matters.
that's what we have to remember. It's not just the big, and sometimes we tend to think the big things.
It's the little things. Sometimes, helping somebody cross the street.
Yeah.
Those little things make an impression and matter. Seeing people smile as they walk out of a theater, that matters.
Yeah,
That matters. Yeah.
it does matter.
So those are the things I guess that I would want to have said about me, but
Yes.
I hadn't really thought of that one. I want to thank you for hitting me with that question.
Peter, thanks for being here. Yeah, we'll see you
My
around.
pleasure. Thank you.